Okay, we are going to flute this thing. Still not that amazing. But I just created a little bit more contour and just worked back and forth with this thing. And now we're going to create the fluting platform. For me, I like to flute the side that seems like it's going to go further first, because if you're going to turn the edge over, you're going to have to remove a little bit of that flute. And then once you flute the second face, then the flutes line up, or they're closer to, or more likely to. Oh, I gotta get my fluting tool. So I didn't really do any pressure flaking on the bass. This is mostly just left over from when it was percussion. But I'll just turn that a little bit. I'll just bring that bass in. So I'll go grab the fluting tool. And then this is what I'm going to set up the platform with, or at least do the smaller work with. I actually have 2 fluting punches, or just punches. This is a new one I made. It's whitetail, so it's harder than this elk. But this is the one that I've been fluting stuff with. And this one I really like. That notch is kind of getting a little deep. It's nice to have them pretty shallow like that, and as you use them they get a little deeper and wider. Then you have to just grind them down. So, to create a fluting platform, which side do I think is going to go further? I think this side's going to go further. I'm not expecting these to go that far. The main thing I want to focus on is not breaking it, getting a plunging flake. So we'll create a platform. I'll zoom this in. So if you are a beginner, and you want to learn how to flute a Clovis, and you're watching this, I'll show you the very basics. Because there are a lot of videos on how to flute Clovis points, but everyone has their own way of describing it. So the side that you want to flute, I mean, if you're trying to flute a Clovis, I'm gonna assume that you know at least how to set up a platform. But if you don't, this is how you do it. So the side that you want to take a flake on is facing you when you're creating the platform. So, oh sorry, I want to flute this side. So this side is the side that I want to flute, so it's facing me. I'm gonna start at the ear, at the end here, and I'm just gonna take some thinning flakes, or sorry, edge turning flakes, which all they're here to do is turn that edge, and I'm not going to turn them super steep. Oh man, this is not a good pressure flaker for this. But I'm not going to turn them super steep. And I'll show you why in a bit, but I'll show you what that platform looks like when it's done. But sometimes you get crushed edges. If your edge is too steep, then that flute is not going to, it has a higher chance of failure. So this is about the angle, or at least how I like them, of my fluting platform to be. And this actually was something that I struggled with for a while when I was first learning how to make Clovis points. Now what I'm doing is just taking a sandstone hammerstone, and I'm just slightly grinding down any of that sharp edge there. Now I'm just going to grind it horizontally, and I'm going to look, and you can see that that edge is lower. There's more material you can see right here. Now I'm going to do a little bit of pressure flaking. Some people like to put really long guide flutes. I don't, and you can. But these are what are called guide flutes. A lot of time you can do them with percussion. I'm doing with pressure. And you take some on either side, and it's essentially just an isolated platform. They also serve to reduce end shock and allow that crack to release better. So I'm bringing the platform in. And some people like to turn it over and do another set. I think for this fluting platform I am, because I don't want it to be that strong. Fluting is always really fun. I don't care if it breaks, it's still fun because it's a challenge. So, we have a little fluting platform. I'm going to dress it up a bit with a sandstone hammerstone. I'm just going to grind the very edge. I'm not going to grind anything up top. I'm not even going to grind it that much. I'm also going to grind the tip a little bit, because the tip is what we're going to place down into our leg. So I'm going to zoom this out now. So what we're going to do, I'm going to grab this guy right here, fold that up. I'm going to take a flake. Actually, no, I don't need to. Okay, here's what we're going to strike our thing with, our punch with. So I'm not going to strike it that hard, but I'm gonna give it a lot of pressure. So I'm just gonna hold it, make sure it's good, and I'm doing dull support because I want this to move just a little bit. Because if it's too stiff, sometimes you can break it. Depends on the type of platform and the material, but for this case, okay. I'll push it in here. There's the first flute. Came out nice. I don't know where the flute went, probably shattered into a bunch of pieces. But nice wide flute, and we're going to flip it over, and I'll show you how to do that. So when you're flipping over a Clovis fluting platform to flute the next face, a lot of the time there's going to be a little bit of a remnant. I'll zoom this back in. There's going to be a little bit of remnant platform, and you can crush that up a little bit. Press really high downward. Don't press in, because sometimes it'll hinge down into your flute and it just won't look as nice, and you won't have as nice of a taper. So we have thickness on this next face, and so now I'm just going to trim around a bit. I'm not going to turn it up too high, because if you do, you end up risking, again, breakage. If it's too close to center line, you can break it, but a lot of the time it's just about the angle of the platform. This one I'm going to isolate more because this side's a little flatter. Okay, so we're going to grind it a little bit. And if you're watching this on YouTube, YouTube recently did this thing where it auto uploads to like only 360p or 480p, which is really low quality, and it's kind of hard to see what's going on. It's not HD by any means, but they have the option to change it to HD, and that is just go to settings with the little gear, and you click on video quality. It's kind of unfortunate that they don't just make it that way in the beginning. Okay, this fluting platform is almost done, and the second face fluting platforms are usually, at least for me, a little wider because they're just small. I'm going to make sure that this has a lot of space to come out. I'm not going to grind it a whole lot because we are using a punch, so we can be pretty accurate, but also it grabs really well, so it doesn't have to be abraded as much as if I were doing this with a hammerstone or something that was really strong, like direct percussion. There's our platform for the second face, and we are going to flute it. Of course, this Clovis is not finished. And if I break it here, you know, okay, I don't want to say that actually. Pressing in, and there's the second flute. And those flutes seem to have come out very similar. There was a little bit of plunging right there. It's nothing that a little bit of trimming with pressure flaking can't fix. I'm dropping everything. So I'll just touch up the inside the base here. Pay attention to that thickness and everything. Nice and sharp in between the flutes. Now what we'll do is we'll just trim up the edge, we'll taper the tip, we'll fix the balance in here. We had some of those antler percussion flakes that were not that nice. They kind of, I was just being expedient, I was being fast, but still, I just wanted to make a little tutorial on how to make a Clovis. So this next chapter will just be about finishing. That was the fluting video. But those flutes are very similar. I'll try and find the flutes.